In part one, we talked about demand, and now we'll talk about supply. Supply is a direct relationship. It will rise as the price goes up. It has a positive slope. Suppliers depend on factors of production, inputs, raw materials, technology, and the size of the facilities, the capital involved, labor, all these factors go into the production. And the higher the price, we know that companies and individuals will be willing to produce more product. It's only logical. Like you are as an employee, the more they pay you, the more hours you're willing to work. If you're willing to work overtime, over the weekends, well, even your individual supply curve is upward sloping. And a change in any of these would then modify the curve as the ceteris paribus conditions are no longer respected. If there is an improvement in technology, for example, then the curve will move to the right. As at every price level, there will be more production available. Think of computers, using computers in production, how much that increases the efficiency on production. On the other hand, let's look at some damaging event, maybe a tsunami, like happened in Japan this last year, when factories are destroyed in a flood. Well, then the supply curve will shift to the left. How exactly, we don't know, but it does shift to the left as facilities are destroyed. It happened in Japan, and temporarily the shift of the supply curve was felt around the world as cars were not made and other electronics became difficult to find. The supply shifted to the left, and then slowly it will return to the right as they reopen the factories or they build new ones. And it might even go to the right even more as they build maybe even more or better factories than they had before with newer technology. The supply curve is part of the picture, and then we go back to the demand curve. The demand curve that we had seen before, that represents the utility of customers, their preferences, their taste, their income, the price of related goods, and there is one more factor we didn't discuss is expectations. It's a psychological aspect of demand. Sometimes when you have special expectation, excitement, maybe you foresee an event, you foresee a disaster, a snowstorm, a hurricane, or just some innovation or news, something, any of that kind of expectation can modify your demand curve. And that's something psychological we did not discuss in part one. But now that you have the demand on one side and the supply on the other side, you can start to see these famous scissors, the scissors of Marshall. Alfred Marshall was an English economist who lived in the about in 1890. That's when he wrote a book on economics, Principle of Economics, and he had this picture of the scissors of Marshall. And he said that these scissors are required, the two blades of the scissors, that's what sets the price. And this is the equilibrium price that you get from the supply and demand from the scissors of Marshall. QE, equilibrium price, and PE. The equilibrium price is a price at which there is no shortages or no surpluses, or at least there shouldn't be. This is the best price, the most efficient price. At this price, customers and suppliers are content. They are somewhat happy as their demand is satisfied and the supply is satisfied. At this level, we also see the customers and the producers having a certain level of happiness, which we call, in this case, consumer surplus for the customers. Is the surface under the demand curve. And for the suppliers, it's called the producer surplus. It's this area over the supply curve. This signifies that there is happiness here. Why is that? Well, consumers would be willing to pay more than this equilibrium price if they had to, but they don't have to because they can pay that equilibrium price. And that represents their happiness. The fact that they don't have to pay as much as they could or they would. Think about yourself going into a store, you need something very much for activating a machine, maybe a battery, and you're prepared to pay maybe $90 for the battery. You really need it badly. And now you go into the store and you notice there is a sale and the battery is available for $25. Well, you are happy. You would have had to pay for this industrial battery $90. Now you only have to pay $25. You are very happy. You saved yourself quite a bit of money, $65. That is your consumer surplus. And the producer also have a surplus because they would be willing to produce for a lower price, but they actually can sell the product for a higher price and make more profit. So this is called the equilibrium point, PE, QE, at which there is the best efficiency for the market. And that was what Alfred Marshall explained in his book, and we still use that. But we know that there is some issues with this model. It's not always right. Sometimes you find that the market is not efficient. The market produces too much of something or too little of something. And then we call that a market failure. If there is a market failure, then this model is not quite satisfactory. What can be the conditions for market failures? It could be that some company has too much power to price the product, and therefore the price is too high. It's not what should be in this model of free competitive market. That could be one problem that we're facing. We call it a monopoly or oligopoly, but it is a problem of market power. There is other issues such as externalities. Externalities is when a product has consequences. Let's say that there is a representation here of alcohol, drugs, tobacco, certain products that we don't want to be too cheap, maybe too available. Then the market is not efficient in the sense that these products can cause harm to other people. Maybe you don't want alcohol to be so cheap. It can cause DUI and accidents that have cost for other people. These are called externalities. Let's look at something like education. Maybe education should be cheaper than the free market would indicate, because education is good and helps other people. Everybody wants to be among educated people. That helps everybody. The city is nicer. Things are more beautiful, more quiet. There is less violence, less crime. So education is a good externality that helps everybody. We want to encourage that. In the case of these market failures, the government might get involved, and they would tax those things that have negative externalities, or they would subsidize those things that have positive externalities. That's why they subsidize college. That's why they tax alcohol, drugs, and other harmful products, maybe things that create pollution or cancer. Those things are limited or taxed. They don't want those to be available just like the free market would indicate. There is other type of market failures when there is the free rider problem. We discussed that sometimes you have things that are very useful. These are public goods. Let's look at national parks, public transportation, public TV, public radio, health. All these are things that you don't want to exclude, or you cannot exclude people from so easily. You want to let them enjoy that. And how would you go about that? If you just let the market take care of it, well, nobody will make that available. Who will make public education available, public transportation available? It's hard to implement it in the free market. The government steps in and subsidizes these products or makes them available in much larger quantities.